It is very clear and beyond any shadow of doubt that you have delivered one of the most overwhelming and resounding SONA underpinned by strategic leadership, and certainly you are very frank and honest to the people. We therefore commend you and congratulate you on a well-delivered State of the Nation address, Mr. President. Honorable members, allow me to share with you some of the remarkable and commendable work that you are doing in the province, which resonates very well with the State of the Nation address. With respect to initiatives aimed at boosting economic growth, we commend government for its commitment on enhancing investments. We welcome the fact that these conferences have already raised, as the President said, 1.5 trillion rands in new investments, and already about 500 billion rands is already injected into the economy. As the economic hub of the country, we appreciate the privilege of being the selected hosts of these conferences. And also, President, we thank you and national government for affording our province to host the BRICS Summit. Indeed, Gauteng is open for investments and business. Honorable members, as you know, and we surely agree, that Gauteng is the inland hub of freight logistics and warehousing, and therefore we welcome one of the most reassuring statements well articulated in SONA, stating as follows: open quote, to deal with severe inefficiencies in our freight logistics system, we are taking action to improve our ports and rail network and restore them to world-class standards, close quote. We welcome this point because as a province with a small land mass, but a point of interface connecting and linking key arterial roads that are critical to the economy, we do feel the impact of inefficiencies in the rail and port infrastructure. In addition to its negative impact on price competitiveness in our freight, we do feel congestion in the province. We therefore welcome and support this particular intervention, President. This is definitely in line with one of the most profound policies of the African National Congress to migrate from road to rail. We also welcome the announcement made to create a high-speed rail link between Joburg and Durban. As you know, this also linked very well with the partnership between Gauteng and Limpopo to create a speed train between the two provinces. Honorable members, the SONA makes a point about special economic zones. We are very much pleased that already in Gauteng, we have the Tshwane Special Economic Zone, the OR Tambo Special Economic Zone, and that in the Vaal. And of course, we are working on the West Rand and that in Lanseria. We are also supporting the Roslyn Automotive City, and of course, the Rainbow Junction is a smart city in the Apis River in the city of Tshwane, and we are rolling out a program to rehabilitate about 40 roads in Mfuleni local municipality. With respect to supporting SMMEs, we welcome the point made, President, open quote, as we grow the economy, we are making it more inclusive, close quote. In our province, honorable members, and I guess subject to correction, we are the only province in the country that has passed the Gauteng Township Economic Development Act, otherwise known as TIDA. In this regard, having passed the TIDA Act, we are now creating a provincial development bank focusing on strategic goal of providing flexible and friendly credit lines and loan facilities to the people in the townships. Honorable members, we cannot leave townships as they are. And of course, as you know, the current banks and financial institutions treat the townships as places that threaten their profit margins and rate of return, and they do not want to put them in their balance sheet. Now, with respect to energy, honorable members, we have already concluded a partnership with City Power, and it will inject about 100 megawatts into the grid. We are rolling out transformers and high mast lines to our people in the province, making electricity accessible. Honorable members, you know, in our province, with respect to what Sona said on job creation, we have found a very dynamic, innovative, and creative way of addressing youth in unemployment through Nasi Ispani, which is a very popular program in the province. The Premier will speak to this matter. With respect to the e-tolls, we welcome the announcement made by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Gauteng, when he said government will absorb the debt with a split between Gauteng government taking 30% and national government 70%. We did say that we will approach national government with a plan to say how we are going to pay, and next week the Premier of the province is going to make an announcement on this matter, and let's welcome the Premier's announcement. Honorable members, on crime fighting, we have our crime prevention wardens, otherwise known as Mapanya-Panya. They are already doing a good job to fight crime in the province. Let me assure you, members, that already the statistical evidence is proving that our crime prevention wardens are doing an excellent job and are making a positive impact on reducing the rate of crime in the province. Honorable members, while we celebrate the work done by the crime prevention wardens, we just want to place on record as a province our deep concern that whilst the crime wardens are doing a good job, but we're really taken aback and shocked when the DA leader, Honorable John Steenhuisen, descended on our province, and all what he did was to launch a scathing racist attack on the crime prevention wardens in our province. It is reported that Honorable Steenhuisen has referred to these members as drunkards, pulled from shebeens, wearing clothes from Pep store. That's what he said. Now, when there was a popular request for him to apologize, he refused to apologize, even when members of the crime prevention warden said that they were deeply hurt by what you said. They did nothing to you, they've done absolutely nothing to you, and you are busy doing this, standing by your point that they are drunkards. You must apologize, honorable member, and you must apologize immediately. I would like to challenge members of the Democratic Alliance. How can you allow this honorable member who's standing your party to be almost like the old Rechtse Nationale Party and are taking the liberal values that you claim and you still have him as a leader? Honorable members, we know this parliament has been very decisive in dealing with people that bring parliament into disrepute, and therefore we request that parliament look into the conduct of the honorable member. We believe that he has violated his oath of office because he is not allowed to make this type of racist remarks. We also believe, honorable members, that if he does not apologize and withdraw on what he said, Parliament should consider taking strong action. And to that effect, honorable members, we look to this House to provide leadership and we wait for feedback on holding him accountable. Thank you very much, honorable members.
Thank you, honorable member. I'll now invite Honorable Zungula.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. President, the reality is that things are worse off for the country as compared to 2019. There's been an increase in load shedding, unemployment, crime, and the cost of living. To prevent the collapse of the country and restore the dignity of the people, the following must happen. The recognition of Amahlubi is critical in restoring the dignity of Africans. Ingonyama Langalibalele was the first political prisoner in Robben Island, It is hatred of our people that the king and the nation of Amahlobi are still not recognized in our country. The government must act on all these establishments that are selling fake foods. The environmental health practitioners must be employed and deployed to remove all unsafe foods from being sold to our people. Mr. President, the fact that you went to a foreign trader who's probably not legally in the country, not paying taxes, selling fake and expired foods, whilst our children in Soweto died of fake foods last year, and you did not go to their families, let alone condemn the action, shows how much you disregard South Africans who've been calling for the government to act on illegal immigration and the foreign domination on the township economy. The government must secure borders to ensure legal movement of people. Mr. President, the rate at which illegal immigration is happening in our country, it can't be characterized as illegal immigration anymore. It is an invasion. The government must criminally charge all these companies that are employing people who are in the country illegally. There must be an end to load shedding now. Power stations must be serviced and maintained, and the evergreen contracts that are draining the finances of Eskom must be terminated. There must be a commission of inquiry to look into the rand manipulation and the unethical practices of the banking sector. The actions of the banks in fixing the rand is economic treason that has destroyed the lives of many people. Mr. President, people lost their homes, they lost their house, their cars, and even some took their lives because of these banks. We will not let it slide. Those banks must be held accountable. All police reservists must be employed to boost police visibility in the fight against crime. The government must be harsh against drug and human trafficking. Drug dealers are killing our country and they deserve no mercy. The government must aggressively deal with the protection fee phenomenon. Poor people who are trying to make an honest living cannot be held ransom by criminals. Mafias who forcefully demand 30% fee from local projects and businesses must be brought to a stop. The digital industry, such as Uber and Bolt, must operate in line with our national interests. They must comply with our immigration and labor laws, protect the drivers, and pay the applicable taxes. The film and television industry must be regulated. Film personnel are currently exploited by the industry producers and production companies, and there must be educational content that builds the spirituality and moral character of our country. Mr. President, as seen now as a country with a television content that is full of alcohol abuse, drugs, sex, and crime, the government must go on an aggressive local manufacturing drive. We can't be even importing toothpicks. Basic goods such as cutlery, towels, soaps must be produced in all districts in order to make citizens to be economically active. And the township economy must be transformed and restored to the citizens. There must be more skills development centers, libraries, art centers than taverns in the townships. Townships and villages cannot be the face of social ills, alcohol and drug abuse. Access to health is a basic human right. Patients are not receiving adequate health care due to the shortage of doctors. The unemployed doctors must be employed now. There must be a farming revolution where all people are assisted to farm wherever there is arable land. This will reduce the food prices and ensure a people-driven food security. The agricultural assistant practitioners must be employed to drive this farming revolution. Mr. President, I want to call all South Africans to rescue our country from being a failed state come election day by voting for a people-funded and people-centered party that puts the interests of South Africans first. All South Africans come these elections, they must vote for ATM. Citizens, we have a responsibility of shaping the direction the country is taking. And the country is collapsing right under your watch. Therefore, you as citizens, you have a responsibility of shaping the direction of the country by voting ATM. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, order. Heckling is allowed, but you can't drown the speaker at the podium. I'll now invite the Honorable Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, Honorable Ngongobel.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Chair, President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, our Honorable Deputy President, Mr. Paul Mashatile, colleagues in the executive and members of parliament during this joint sitting, premiers and provinces, members of the media, and most importantly, the people of South Africa who celebrate 30 years of democracy this year. And we also don't want to forget to say Happy Radio Day. When the President delivered what I would pronounce as the most blissful State of the Nation address, in the absence of our rowdy neighbors on Thursday evening, he demonstrated that South Africa is a much better country than when we found it. Indeed, we are essentially Tintswalo, all of us. The ANC-led government has accomplished much in its pursuit for a peaceful, united, non-racist, non-sexist South Africa. The African National Congress has fundamentally altered the socio-economic conditions of our people. Mr. President, the phenomenon connectivity and internet penetration from a mere 21% in 2011 to a staggering 79% in 2022 has elevated our people in this rapidly changing world, which is driven by digital technologies. Mr. Yamkela Mgugudu, an entrepreneur selling chicken in Mount Elif, who had this to say: since we had access to connectivity, because of its affordability, 5 rand per gig and 250 rand per month unlimited, from 80 rand 90 to 5 rand. As an ordinary person, this made it possible to increase his market of chicken because more people knew about his business in his village. Here we speak about, Mr. President, what a developmental state is doing. We are intervening through connectivity all over the country to create conditions that make sure data price goes down. Because of this experience of Yamkela, we felt it's affirmed the plan of 2022, the SA Connect, which commit in 4 to 5 years to make sure that 5.5 million houses are covered through enablement by 32,055 Wi-Fi hotspots. At the end of this year, Mr. President, we expect the coverage of no less than 1.5 million households, enabled by no less than 8,415 Wi-Fi hotspots. By end of March this year, financial year, we commit to cover no less than 747,000 households, enabled by 4,250 Wi-Fi hotspots. All these thousands and million households will have access to internet at 5 rand per gig. And this is going to determine the bigger price environment in as far as this technology is concerned. What we expect here, no less than 76 SMMEs are also participating, 4,500 direct jobs, and many more indirect jobs opportunities and in the downstream. The other thing, Mr. President, we want to state up front is that we are happy to report that we have completed the most important part of the digital migration. We have freed spectrum above 694 megawatts for use by mobile operators. It is this spectrum that will connect public institutions and deploy 4G and 5G throughout our country. Cabinet approved the next generation spectrum because the government wisely took a decision that you cannot allocate the entire spectrum to mobile operators. Government must have a say in ensuring that inequality is prevented in actually executing this program. Against this background, we want to say 4G connection is expanding to township and rural areas under the democracy Katatu Mandela. ICT, Mr. President, is a great equalizer. Everyone in South Africa must and will access modern digital technology. A digitally disconnected South Africa automatically removes itself from participating in the global community of the future. The social and economic impact of which will be catastrophic if that is allowed. Quickly, Mr. President, I want to say on the SETA, we have made an urgent intervention to deal with the issues of procurement. A ministerial task team is doing a wonderful job. A full report will be given in this regard. I am happy to report stability and seamless performance at the bank, which are critical factors for grant recipients. As a result, Post Bank still services close to 5 million grant beneficiaries and close to 3 million other customers. In total, Post Bank serves close to 8 million customers, making it an admired institution by most banks currently. This means that relevance of Post Bank to South Africa remains critical. Post Bank is on track with its licenses. These are financial service provider licenses, designated clearing systems participant licenses, both of which give the bank the authority to not only issue cards, but to sell loans and take deposit and sell insurance. It shall therefore always be remembered that although the full banking license is critical, Post Bank is authorized to perform at a level I've already articulated. A lot has been said here, Mr. President. You said in your speech, 14 billion constitute the value of what has been granted as freezing application. And you said 8.6 billion is what has been recovered. And said 64 billion by our law enforcement is on civil litigation. But no one listened. You said 200 people are under prosecution. No one listened. The point is, a party that is not non-racial, which is a party purely of black and white, is not able to listen to the facts of the non-racial cause. We have accepted our challenges as the movement. I am yet to hear a multiracial black and white party accept its challenges of discrepancies in the Western Cape. It has not done. We are yet to see a policy of DA, of affirmative action in the province of the Western Cape. DA is not capable of doing that because it's a party of black and white. Its struggle is about which race weighs against which race. That's why the black race is always a loser. They come out marching like rats running from a methane underground. We know you are not going to listen. So we must not waste our time struggling to be listened to or heard by a multiracial party when we pursue a non-racial cause. You've got 8 years in Tshwane. You can't do 20%
As you
of what
conclude-
Sputla did in 5 years. You had some couple of years in Eguruleni. What we did in 5 years, you have not started 1% because you are a multi-racial party.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Order. I'll now invite Honorable Heron.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, we don't believe that the fabric of South African society can tolerate mediocre state management for much longer before ripping apart. Nor do we believe that in order to fix South Africa, we need to redivide it, which is the essential position of many in the opposition benches. What we need is a cohort of capable leaders steeped in human values of humility, integrity, and community. The President is correct that South Africa today is fundamentally different to that of the apartheid era, and nobody can seriously deny the existence of our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our democratic institutions, an independent judiciary, and a free media. And these instruments have been used by political parties and citizens across the spectrum to hold the state to account. The quandary we have is that despite the gains we've made, subsidized housing, electrical and water connections, social grant system included, about 1 in 3 South Africans are living in extreme poverty. Our efforts to right the wrongs of the past, from land dispossession and spatial injustice, to prosecuting apartheid and post-apartheid state criminals, have proven feeble. Our constitutional values, which the President correctly said we should celebrate, impose a duty on the state to rectify our inherited injustices and forge unity between our historically divided people. What we don't need is to throw our post-apartheid values out with the bathwater. We need to create space for more babies in the bath. If we are unable to eliminate poverty and inequality by fixing the economy and creating jobs, the state has a duty to do so through social security. The President introduced us to Tinswalo as a symbol of a young South African nourished by the fruits of our democracy. Bongeka Buso from Butterworth, on the other hand, murdered her 3 children last August before killing herself. She was 38 years old. She was driven to desperation by poverty, by the failure of the state to meet its Section 27 obligations to provide social security. The President's failure to commit the state to implementing a basic income grant for the 12 million unemployed adults who qualify for no state support and cannot find a job was very disappointing. As poverty becomes increasingly entrenched, the state must implement a basic income system that at least meets the lower bound poverty line. South Africa will be unable to create jobs for as long as we are trapped in an economic growth crisis. We need an annual growth rate of 5% or 6% to seriously address the crisis of unemployment when our population growth rate has exceeded 19% over the past decade. We need the basics for growth: stable and reliable electricity, functioning transport networks, and functional digital communication connections. We welcome the President's commitment to adding renewable energy to the grid, but the IPP procurement process has been bogged down in long processes that bizarrely don't recognize any urgency. The 2020 risk mitigation IPP, which was to urgently add 2,000 megawatts to the grid by the end of 2022, was barely off the ground in November 2023, with just 5 projects totaling 353 megawatts under construction. We also welcome the President's strong commitment or recommitment to the green economy and a just transition. But in 2010, government adopted the New Growth Path framework, which recognized the green economy as a key driver that would at least create 300,000 jobs. 14 years later, it would have been good to learn about the practical steps to begin reskilling coal workers and to localize the production of components for renewable energy industry in South Africa. South Africa's National Infrastructure Plan was gazetted by the previous Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure in February 2022, identifying a number of strategic infrastructure projects, or SIPs, across the energy, freight transport, water infrastructure, and digital communication sectors, ready for implementation. But government-led infrastructure projects have been slow in implementation, and the construction sector, which could be a key driver of job creation, has been contracting. Mr. President, we need one coherent economic growth plan to address our worsening economic growth crisis and provide for inclusive growth for all South Africans and for Black South Africans who were previously excluded. But where Black is as defined in the Employment Equity Act and the Double E Act as a generic term, which means Africans, Coloureds, and Indians. Without inclusive economic growth, the democratic values and freedom South Africa has achieved will be overshadowed by suffering on a magnitude that betrays the values and our Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Herman. The next speaker is the Honorable Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, Honorable Twapa.
Sihlalo ohloniphekileyo, ndiyakubulisa kunye nendlu yomthetho ngokubanzi. Ndiza kuwe ke mongameli welizwe lethu kunye nosekela ndizibulisela. Ndiyatsho ke mawethu, zizwe zoMzantsi Afrika, ikumkani neenkosi zezwe lakowethu. Bendingubani ke mna ukuba ndingachukumisa umququmbelo wengubo zenu, kodwa ke ndiyaqiniseka apho nikhoyo niyalazi idabi lenduku, induku zomlomo, liyaqhuba kweli qonga, livuliwe ngusomlomo. Ndiyafuna ukuba ndiqale ngale nto ithi iimbali zibalisiwe namhlanje. Uqalwa kwezamhla sacinezelwa satsho sathunukala, kwakho kwezamhla sakhululeka satsho sachulumana. Zitshiwo zonke izinto ezingalunganga ezenziwa ngumbutho we-African National Congress. Asikazifumani ke kodwa ezenziwe ngabanye abantu. Silapha nje silungisana nobubhutyubhutyu obebenziwe phambili phaya. Umhla ngengxaki, mhla azaqala inqwelo zemithi zagabha iziqu abantu kula malwandle, bazabethwela amasiko amazwe abo, bazocinezela thina ngabo. Balibalisa bathi they have discovered. Bafike kukho izinto ezifana nabantu. Ezo zinto bafike zikhona, banamandla okuthatha umhlaba wonke kunye nabo bantu babenza amakhoboka abo. Ewe kube kubana ubukumkani bamangesi bayikhulula le nto uba makume ipalamente yabantu abangebe balapha, babe ngaphandle bonke abantu balapha. Isiganeko esi saba ngo-1948 kwatsho kwanyembeleka. Balithatha bakha zonke izikhwenkane, amagqwirha namasela, babethelela ukuba singaze siphakame. Le nto bayenza ngongenanceba, bayenza ngezinyanzeliso, bengenamntu banqandayo. Yathi yavela i-ANC, yathi uma kule ndawo. I-ANC ithe uma kule ndawo akudlulwa. Kuthe kwaungabi kwathi kwawubonakala uba ngo-1948 bamile banale palamente bodwa abanantloni. Bathi bawugqiba batyakatya behamba bethatha imihlaba beyinika amanye amagama ooMarisburg, kuthiwo phaa eMgudlungundlovu kuthiwa kuseMarisburg. Yonke into le kwakho nendlela kakumkani, the King's Way, akuthiwa ukumkani wamaNgesi ohamba phaa. Uba eyaphi kwazi yena yedwa. Makade ndifike ke kule ndawo ithi ngeli xesha kusondela inkululeko, ndiyafuna bantakwethu bonke abantu abahamba le nto yokudutyulwa kwenyanga. Kukho into entsha ngokuthiwa kudubula inyanga, i-moonshot. Le nyanga izawudutyulwa ke ayiyo enye yi-African National Congress. Abantu abathi banamandla bame ngomumo babiza abanye, yizani kukho iphulo lokudubula inyanga. Eli phulo lizawukhupha i-ANC elulawulweni. Njengoba ke sesikwelo phulo kubizwa nabanye abangabakhululwa be-African National Congress, kuthiwa izani siyingcatshe siyikhuphe embusweni ngoba ilungiselele nina. Lityala ukwakha imayunivesithi abe maninzi ngoba ngoku kuthiwa abantwana abanandawo yakuhlala. Bebezoyohlalelani, beyizoba khona njani indawo kungekabikho ndawo yofunda? Zininzi izinto ezithethwayo. Xa kusithiwa ngoku make kube khona i-NHI, bame ngaphambili imistake yaba kukuba bavunyelwe sibe kunye kweli qonga. Siyabhala bayacika. Kwamthetho siwakhayo uba abakwazi kuwuchitha bayowutshixela ecourt uba mawuhlale phaa kunga-implementwa, bazofumana ithuba lokuthi abagelekedjane bathi hayi aba akho nto bayenzayo bakhupheni. Siyayazi naleyo, ingase abantu bakuthi bayazi naleyo. Uyabona ke uba kukhona indawo enzima yi-Western Cape, kula maphondo oluthoba, xa umongameli ethetha apha, ndifuna ukuba ndingaxoxi njengaathi ndisetywaleni, ndixoxa kule yoba utheni umongameli. Uthethe ngokuba kukhawuleziswe ukunikwa umhlaba. Hayi kabalapha ke abafuni nokuva awuthengisa umhlaba walapha eWestern Cape ngoba koyityiselwa uba sakuwuthenga siwunike abantu abathathelwa umhlaba wawo. They actually block the opportunity to buy land and give it to the previous owners. Ningacinga uba sithi xa siwuthenga siwubuyisele kwakule owner yakho. Ndiza kuxelela kaManani portfolio evidence. Hayi kuhle kakhulu, andizuxoxa njengathi ndihambe emasimini. Phaya phezulu sinembeko mongameli yokuba nomnumzana uHilton Klein, ingasikaphakama umhlekazi wami, ukhonje phaa kwezi abathu. Ndifuna kucaca inyani, thethwe ngee-facts. Nanku umhlekazi wami nguye chu umuntu omnyama ongumuntu ohluphekileyo ovela kwimilitary onefarm apho khona ne-abathu athumela inyama emazweni. Out of the 46 commercial abattoirs, that is the only man in this Western Cape. Abanantloni izona ude babe baninzi kangaka bene-abattoirs abanye abantu bengenazo. Hayi mabaxube neentloni. Ndiyabulela mhlekazi. Ndiphakamise umnumzana uNetli, yena une farm ekuthiwa nguSam Begen. Us beginning. Kuye ke ngokumuntu osebenza ne-farm workers kunye nabantu abaneefama nyana ezincinci is actually i-commercial farmer ephuma izandla kodwa esebenza nabantu abahluphekileyo. Singayenza into abanye abantu bethanda bayekuba nekhatshi ngomhlaba ababewebile. Ndiyabulela uhamba nemanager ekwangaba bantu bancinane ngokufama mayiphakame le manager labantu abakwethu ndiyibone. Sinaye futhi ke ndiyabulela kakhulu naye umnumzana uIvan yena ke ngoku ngushiga kuthi unamagusha negrain. Amagusha ke zigusha. Uhamba phambili ke kola xoxobana limoshayo. Kodwa ke ndiyabulela mhlekazi. Kangangoba ke ezindaba ze-markets, ezindaba ze-labor, yonke lento ifihliweyo yaqalwa mhla kwatshintsha izinto. Bathi apha ku-1990 to 1994 batshintsha izinto bathi apha makube khona i-organized white farmers.
So gcibelela ma.
Ewe. Lento bayenzileyo yile yenza uba kuthi kunamhlanje kube izinto zingakubo. Ezinto zingakubo siyaya pha evotini akho mntu unoyikayo. Nikhenkcaza nje xa kulapha masiyani pha ebantwini. Isibongo bantu abemzini.
Siyabulela. Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. I'll now invite Honorable Masang.
Sihlalo hloniphekile angibonge kakhulu
and difficult socio-political economic dynamics. Your Excellency, Mr. President, in your State of the Nation address last week, you meticulously outlined the successes that we have realized together with our people in the last 30 years. But equally, you admitted where there were challenges, and we can say the least for others, somewhere else where they fail our people. Honorable members, we must be frank and admit that whereas in 1994 we assumed that all compatriots were committed to constructing an equal society, this was not the case. There are some in our midst whose preoccupation has been to undermine the democratically elected government under the guise of being honest critiques. Kubona ayikho into enhle engenziwa umuntu omnyama. Abantu bakithi kodwa bakubonile lokho. Yingakho abantu bakithi they rejected them in 1994, they rejected them and they are still going to reject them in 2024. Ake siqale lapha ke malunga ahloniphekile. Umhlonishwa ubulawayo umholi wenkatha, hayi mhlonishwa kubhlungu ukuzwa umuntu omdala edukisa isizwe. Abantu bakithi ngesifo esubhubhane isifo sengculazi. Ayikho into eyenziwa inkatha bakithi kwaZulu Natal ukuvimba lolubhubhane. Uyakwazi mhlonishwa uhlabisa nawe ukuthi imshanguzo yaqala ngohulumeni ke ANC. Namhlanje ingakho kwaZulu Natal sesenza ngcono even kuma United Nations goals in ending the epidemic by 2030. Okungu 95, 95, 95. Inkatha, I'm sure ayikwazi nalo 95, 95, 95. Namanje. Abantu bakwaZulu Natal ingakho bayiphika inkatha, bayikhahlela inkatha ngo-2004. Ngoba intuthuko ibingekho bakwethu. Imgwaqo oyibonayo kwanamhlanje ukufukulwa kwabantu besifazane ngaphansi kohlelo kwazibambele lwaqala ngabahlonishwa ababengaphansi kwahulumeni wenkatha omhlonishwa uNdebele omhlonishwa uMkhize ibona baqala ama-clinic lapho besihlala khona ku-2 room house namhlanje sihlala ku-4 room house abanye ababehlala lapho bakhishwa yilo hulumeni ka-ANC bahamba bayokwakhela kwezinye indawo bahlala ko-4 room babo namhlanje ayizange inkatha izikwenze lokho mhlonishwa. Asibonge nje ukuthi ngesikhathi kusekhona omhlonishwa uNdebele ozwela Mkhize oDumsani Makhaye Mike Mabuyakhulu yakhumbula abahlonishwa ukuthi yilabo bahlonishwa kuhulumeni wenkatha ababeletha intuthuko eindaweni zabantu bakithi kwaze babizwa ngokuthi 4x4 ngoba kwakwaziwa bona bodwa. Namhlanje sinezikole ezifana noMandla Mthetho emkhanya kude le lapho abantwana bakhona baphatha ama-exercise book abaphatha amapeni basebenzisa i-technology. Sinezikole namhlanje ezifana no-Anton Lembede that are paperless, that are technology using ama-students wethu lapho even othisha basebenzisa o-whiteboard ubuchwepheshe banamhlanje benziwa yilo hulumeni we-ANC. Inkatha nkosi yami yayingekho ndawo-ke yayingeke iziyenzo kwalonto. Kule 6th administration in KwaZulu-Natal, it's been characterized by disasters, triple challenges of COVID-19, civil unrest, devastating floods, and this has really bettered our economy. Considering ukuthi budget yethu yaKwaZulu-Natal u-130.4 billion, and umonakalo owenziwa lezi zikhukhula ungaphezulu ku-160 billion. Uyacabanga ke ukuthi ibudget yethu yanyamalala kangakanani ukuzama ukulungisa lo monakalo. Honorable members, we have worked hard to harness our relationship with the private sector, to retain their investment in our country, in the toxic and rhetoric and skepticism championed by some of our learned friends on my left-hand side, seated across in the opposition benches, about our country and pulling our country down at every turn that they can get. For a period of 2019 to 2014, we've really committed ourselves to the tune of 18.1 billion worth of new investment in KwaZulu-Natal that has created more than 30,000 jobs across a spectrum of sectors. 6 billion of business expansion projects were realized that created more than 16,000 jobs. And in line with the government quest to transform the economy, 98 priority group investment projects were also mainstreamed. If we look at the Dubai Trade Port as the SCZ in KwaZulu-Natal, namhlanje, it has reached more than 759 million just in December 2023. And this is expected to increase to 1.3 billion ama investment akhona njengamanje. And if you look at the jobs that have been created there, you can see ukuthi even nemsebenzi impacteka by COVID-19 njengamanje sesiyakwazi ukuthi si-regain. Mr. President, your investment drive through your presidential investment conferences in KwaZulu-Natal has really set us in a cause of aggressively rebuilding this country, but also repositioning our province as an investment destination. We had to work extra hard to restore and rebuild the investor confidence. As a result, in the last year alone, KwaZulu-Natal witnessed several investments launched by our Honorable President, including the SAPI, Mr. President, of 8 billion, and iSAPI, ngiyafisa ukusho la ukuthi iseyindaweni zasemakhaya Yilapho abantu basemakhaya nendawo zasemakhosini abakwaziyo ukuthi bahwebe nesaphi bakwazi ukuthola ukuthi babe zinkampani zabo bayimele ngomsebenzi owenziwa wena mongameli walapha eNingizimu Afrika. IHesto elapha ya eMandeni nayo i-investe 1 billion wafika wazoyithula ngokusemthethweni Mr President. That has created massive jobs endaweni yaseMandeni and iqasha abantu. Uyakhumbula nawe wababona abantu bakwazi ngisho ukuqala ucingo olufakwa emotweni bayenze imoto ize idume yenziwa ngabantu abancane abantu abasha kodwa abanye bazinkampani zabo ezisebenza nazo lezi inkampani. Toyota, one of the notable automobile brands in South Africa and beyond, has pledged more than 1 billion towards renewable energy and the expansion that they are doing. Rainbow Chickens announced the 620 million as part of their confidence in the KZN poultry sector, boosting investment in the rural areas. We've had many other investments such as the Defy, the Serenity Hills, the multiple property developments that we've seen, the women-owned business in the Royal Shakaland that was announced by yourself, Mr. President, in the last presidential conference. The strategic partnership that we've held with the IDC has also benefited a lot of young people. 192 beneficiaries of young people have been given grants in that, and that created more than 1,050 jobs. The beneficiaries are spread across the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We've also positioned KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. President, as a smart province, as Minister Ekulumala. We are working with other telecom companies. Vodacom has invested 60 billion in KwaZulu-Natal, which will go a long way in boosting our Smart Province campaign. And in this regard, we are also creating what we call data centers in the township and in the rural communities and in the height of other schools where we've created and trained data analysts so that they are able to get into the job market and create their own. We've created, so far, we've trained more than 100,000 young people as data scientists and data analysts. Ubani owayazi ukuthi umuntu omnyama ingane esesikoleni elokishini iyofunda ngo-coding now robotics. Zingu-26 izikole kwezu-23 eKwaZulu-Natal abantwana befunda ngama-robotics kanye ne-coding. Okwamanje sisaqale ngalezi zingu-211 kwi-intermediate phase izikole nazo esizingene kwi-robotics kanye nakwi-technology ey'fundweni zabo. With the fourth industrial revolution, Mr. President, when you launched your presidential commission on fourth industrial revolution and you announced the report from there, we also established KwaZulu-Natal, a fourth industrial revolution commission that is helping us to advise us on the digital transformation strategy so that we can also expand the broadband connectivity of our people. Ngiyazi ukuthi inkathi izoti ikhona into eyayenza ngo-fourth industrial revolution. I'm sure kwakuse one revolution ngesikhathi senkatha njengoba sesiya ku-5 manje. Awu 8,000 ama-Wi-Fi hotspots. Awu 8,000 ama-Wi-Fi hotspots esiplane ukuthi kulonyaka sizobe sesiwafake asabalala kuzona zonke indawo. Okuhle kakhulu ngalama Wi-Fi hotspots
Conclude, Honorable Premier.
ukuthi amanye siwafaka eindaweni zasemakhosini lapho amakhosi siwafakela ama-cameras for security, sibanika iy'moto zokupatrola, sibanikeza ama-community safety, sibathengele iy'moto ukuze bakwazi ukuphepha ey'ndaweni zasemakhaya nasey'ndaweni zasemakhosini. Abantu bakithi sibafakile emkhakheni wensangu. Sibafakile emkhakheni wensangu sabanika ama-license awu 649.
Thank you. I'll now invite Honorable Notad.
Sihlalo malunga bekekileyo bantu baseMzantsi Afrika ndiyanibulisa ngale njikalanga molweni. Mr. President, on Thursday evening I sat in these benches in awe of your out-of-touch speech about the reality of South Africa today. In 1994, millions of South Africans believed they would live a better life under the ANC. But today, not in 1994, 30 years later, South Africans have been plunged into a life of dependency, unemployment, and poverty. Since 2018, we have promised interventions in basic education, yet 8 sonas later, nothing has changed. Mr. President, Minister Motshekga has led you to believe that all is well in the education sector, relying on information she gets from air-conditioned boardrooms. You went as far as calling it a silent revolution. Getting quality education in democratic South Africa should not require a revolution, sir. It should be the norm. Generations of parents have lost all hope of their children having economically prosperous futures. Mr. President, your new dawn has become our daily nightmare. Now, I would like to dispel some of your illusions about the children of our democracy today. While conducting oversight in the Eastern Cape, I met a young girl called Thando, who is forced to walk long kilometers through dangerous bushes at risk of being raped, and she crosses a dangerous river to get to school despite qualifying for scholar transport. I walked those long kilometers with her and many other learners. Her bravery and desire for education makes her do this every single day, because she knows her family is part of the 30 million poor South Africans that are jobless, suffering under the rising cost of living. She knows she needs quality education to change the circumstances of her birth. But Thando's school is a dilapidated mud and asbestos building that poses a danger to her health, an unconducive learning environment with a strong stench of deadly pit toilets wafting through the broken windows of her classroom. She shares her desk with 3 other girls and the classroom that is overcrowded with 60 other learners. Despite the many excellent teachers that go the extra mile under difficult circumstances, Thando's teachers have failed the very same tests for the subjects that they teach, assured in the knowledge that SATU would protect their incompetency. At break time, if the food is delivered, Thando collects her only meal for the day. However, last year, she was part of the thousands of learners that starved for weeks in the Eastern Cape and KZN because school nutrition tenders were given to ANC cadres who must eat while children starve. Thando's school is part of the 74% of schools without libraries. She will likely be part of the 81% of 10-year-olds and 56% of grade 6 learners that cannot read for meaning in any language. Attending one of the 82% of schools without labs, no doubt she will be one of the grade 9 maths and science learners that do not have basic subject knowledge and skills. If Thando is lucky enough to complete matric, she would have had to prepare her exams in darkness because of load shedding. Thereafter, anxiously wait to be misled by Minister Motshekga and the ANC's quantity over quality matric pass rate, leaving thousands of learners behind. Mr. President, the real matric pass rate is only 55.3%, not 82.9%. Your government has in fact left behind more than 345,000 learners that dropped out or were discouraged between grade 10 in 2021 and matric in 2024. They have now joined the 3.3 million youth not in education, employment, or training. Only 40% of this cohort of learners achieve bachelors. Let me tell you what you get when you need to get a bachelor's. You need 4 subjects at 50%, 1 subject at 40%, 2 subjects at 30%, and attain a bachelor's pass. What is worse, you can even fail 1 subject and still get a bachelor's pass. Therefore, a high quantity pass rate with the pass mark this low means little if quantity, depth, and skill are left out of the equation. At the end of 12 years of struggles, Thando, Tintswalo's daughter Esona, and the millions of young people under this ANC government are destined for the unemployment queues, joining the 7 in every 10 young people that are jobless, denied the opportunity to access tertiary institutions because you have failed to give them quality education. You see, Mr. President, you can fool your comrades with your out-of-touch speech, but you cannot fool South Africans. This is their reality. Fellow South Africans, we can wake up from this nightmare. In 2024 elections, you must vote for the DA's blueprint that will rescue the millions of learners from a failing public education system. Whether a child is born in Khayelitsha or Wynberg, whether a child is born in Emlazi or Palito, Alexandra or Sandton, Kuqumbu or Cape Town, they should receive the best quality education. And the DA will ensure that every learner receives 210 full days of school, prioritizing reading, writing, and numeracy at foundation level. Poor quality teaching will be rooted out, and teachers will be tested every 3 years. We will introduce literacy and numeracy assessments at grade 6, 9, and grade 3 to improve quality. Trade union strangleholds on teacher appointments will be broken. Learner dropouts will be curbed, and by introducing a curriculum that is diversified from grade 9 so that learners acquire skills responsive to economic opportunity. Yabona nina ingxaki yenu into yobana nikhathalele ingxaki zamanye amazwe. Nihlulwa zingxaki zalapha ekhaya. Nihoyene namanye amazwe ningakwazi unika abantwana bethu imfundo esemgangathweni. Kwaye odadewethu kunyanzeleke belele namaqabane ukuze bafumane imisebenzi noba sele befundile. Nithanda ningathandi anibuyi. Madiba was correct. Mr. President, Madiba was correct. Once you climb a great hill, you find many more hills to climb. The ANC is that great hill that we had to climb for the last 30 years. And it's time we left it behind. In 2024, we will do to the ANC what our parents did to the apartheid government in 1994. Vote you out. Sonele nini nini. I thank you.
Order. Order. Manje kutawuba lithuba la ngqongqoshe welitiko letempilo umhlonishwa Dr. Pasi.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me pass my greetings to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Mapisa Ngakula, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Amos Masondo, His Excellency, the President of the Republic, President Cyril Ramaphosa, and the Deputy President Mashatile, Cabinet colleagues, honorable members. I appreciate this opportunity by the presiding officers and the presiding chair and my chief whip to participate in the debate on the State of the Nation address of the President for 2024. Thank you very much, President, for a comprehensive report to the people of South Africa on the achievements of the 6th administration, while also acknowledging the challenges which we are still addressing. Indeed, over the last few days, many Tinswalos have come forward to say what this democratic state has done for them to open up opportunities for a better life. Shame on those who want to rubbish these lived experiences of many South Africans. Mr. President, thank you also for highlighting a few areas in which the health sector has also performed, has made progress, also indicating where we are going from here, because indeed we are coming back. Siyabuya. Reabuwa. I wish to start by joining the President in acknowledging the contribution of many South Africans in our fight against COVID-19 pandemic, which consumed a large part of the term of this government to a very devastating impact. We thank the gallant health workers who carried the burden of looking after the sick, even when most of us were staying at home as a result of the call by the President that we should all stay home. The cooperation between the public and private sectors, especially during the vaccination campaign, laid a very solid ground for the implementation of the National Health Insurance. Since the lifting of the restrictions in June 2022, the health sector has been on a recovery path, and I'm pleased to say that all key indicators show that we are well on the way to this recovery. Our key focus is to lay the foundation for universal health coverage as envisaged in the Freedom Charter, but also in Section 27 of our Constitution. This is a path which was laid, the foundation of by our founding president, President Nelson Mandela, when in his very early days of presidency declared that all children under the age of 6 and all pregnant women will receive free services in all public health facilities. We are combining the broadening of access together with improvement of quality. In this regard, deployment of appropriate human resources is key to both access and quality, and this applies to multiple qualifications and skills within the health sector. The medical profession is very key in these multidisciplinary teams, and that is why we are doing everything to retain as many doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, and members of these health teams within the public health system. I'm therefore pleased to announce today that working with my colleague, the Minister of Finance, we have indeed found a solution to the current difficulty of employing the doctors who want to work in the public service. We are going to fund this post working with the minister. The details of how this is going to be funded will be stated by the minister next Wednesday when he will be delivering his budget speech. Our national teams are already working together between Treasury and Health to thresh out the details, and working also with Provincial Department to speed up the process so that by the 1st of April this year, all those who wish to work in the public sector, all those doctors who want to work, will be able to get jobs. I'm very confident that through this, as we will detail after the budget speech, the provinces will already start making sure that the recruitment, all the processes are carried on, and also I'm quite confident that many of the provinces will bring forward some of the funding to start in March so that when April comes, those doctors will already be working. In this regard, I want to say hard luck to those who had been wishing to use this as a political football in the elections campaign. And amongst them, Honorable Labushkakne, who spoke earlier on, thinking that there is somehow a discourse between national health insurance and the fact that we are not employing doctors. So if you thought you were going to use this for your campaign, forget. I'm sorry for that. We have taken it off the table. Think about other issues. This also, honorable members, is also an example of how the achievement of this ANC-led government can also be, the success can also be a challenge. Because over the last 15 years, we have ramped up the training of doctors, both locally in our own universities, but also through the Nelson Mandela Fidel Castro program. The number of graduates have almost doubled over the last 10 years. In 2014, there were only 1,300 graduates who entered internship. But in 2022, there were 2,500, almost just a little short of doubling. And this year, we have admitted just over 2,200 interns who have already started working as interns. So just a little around 1,000 more than they were 10 years ago. We are committed to work with the associations, your medical associations, the trade unions, all of them, to make sure that we can create even more opportunities for these young professionals, not only doctors, nurses, pharmacists, physiotherapists, all of them. And amongst others, we want to work together to look at creating multidisciplinary group practices in communities where these young doctors can, once they are fully registered, they can come together, either join those who are already in practice or else start their own practices. And in this regard, I also want to urge my colleagues in finance and also trade and industry that the funding which is available for small businesses should also be available for young doctors who want to start their practices. Because some of the challenges is funding. Now, it's very important because these group practices, especially multidisciplinary, are very key to the establishment of the national health insurance in communities. As stated by the President in SONA, The other area of serious interventions is to improve, in improving quality is to upgrade infrastructure. I can confirm that the construction of the Limpopo Academic Hospital is progressing very well and should be completed on time and on budget by 2028. The construction phase of this hospital is already creating more than 2,000 jobs in Limpopo, and even when the hospital is completed and start operating, it will create an equivalent number of jobs, just over 2,000 full-time jobs. But over and above that, it will provide critical clinical services which will cut the necessity for people of Limpopo when they need major surgeries and other specialized services to be transported to Gauteng province. Last year in 2023, Honorable President also had the opportunity to open a state-of-the-art hospital in eThekwini, Honorable Premier, you were there, at the Pixley Sakaseme Hospital, which will also complement the existing Inkosi Albert and also King Edward, which is currently known as the Victoria Mklange Hospitals. Late last year, I also joined the Premier of the Eastern Cape when we opened the state-of-the-art district hospital in the area called in Tabankulu, a hospital called Sipetu. State-of-the-art with state-of-the-art equipment. But also late last year, I joined MEC of Limpopo and the Premier to also unveil state-of-the-art equipment in a hospital where myself and Minister Mutsaledi worked many years in the area Kukune called St. Rita's Hospital, where the MEC and the Premier were unveiling state-of-the-art equipment such as CT scanners, advanced digital X-ray machines, mammographies, and all those also connected to an advanced digital system called the Picture Archiving and Communication System. Through that system, when you take pictures from X-ray, CT scans, you can transmit that even to the doctor's cell phone so that they don't have to come and look at the picture. They can even be transmitted. And they can also be transmitted to specialist radiologists, even if they are overseas, so that they can be able to interpret and then be able to send to the doctor who's on the bedside so that they can be guided in terms of what to do to intervene. So I'm stating this to indicate that indeed, we are marching forward. There are a number of other hospitals which we are upgrading across the country. In Limpopo, Siloam Hospital, which has taken a long time, is currently under construction. In the Eastern Cape, Zitulele Hospital, Free State, Ditlabeng Hospital, Premier of Mpumalanga, Wheatbank Hospital, we're also doing upgrading there. And there are a lot of others which I cannot mention here today because of time. But we're also rolling out the digital health information system in all these hospitals. President would have seen also when we were at Pixley that that hospital is already paperless. So we are not talking theory here. We're talking practical in terms of bringing Minister Gungubele, the fourth industrial revolution, is already being implemented in the health sector in preparation for the rolling out of the National Health Insurance System. Our health patient registration system has already been rolled out to well over 60 million people who are already registered in this regard. And what is important is that as we do this, we are using the intellectual property which belongs to the state. We bring in private players, but not to own the system, but to just be partners in developing the system.
As you conclude, Honorable Minister.
Let me also, as I conclude, just say that, President, as you also indicated, we have made huge progress in making sure that HIV/AIDS will be defeated. I'm not saying this alone, but also from international reports, from UNAIDS and others. Also in the fight against TB, the WHO has already indicated that South Africa is on course to meet its SDG targets of 2030 in the defeat of TB. Lastly, just to say that those who fear that the NHI will become an SOE, some say it will be an ESCOM. Let me tell you that in this, you can go and ask the Auditor General. In this last audit, all health public entities either got clean audits or got unqualified audits, all of them without exception. So we can assure you that
Thank you.
NHI will be safe in our hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, business will now be suspended for 10-15 minutes for a comfort break. Bells will be rung to alert members to the resumption of business. Business now suspended.
House Chairperson.
Please be seated. Honorable members, we shall now resume with the debate on the President's State of the Nation address. I now invite the Honorable Minister of Basic Education to the podium. The Honorable Minister.
Where's your clock?
Order, honorable members, order.
Okay. Chair, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, the Deputy President of the Republic, Mr. Mashatile, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, as well as the South African public at large. Honorable Speaker, it is with profound honor that I rise today to echo the sentiments of the inspiring State of the Nation address delivered by His Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa. It was certainly not his last, obuyabuya. Do not that, anizukuphendula mntanisekhaya because zabe ndizimosha amandla. Ngoba uyazi uba sisebenzile kakhulu nakhona, so nabe ndiphikisa into engekhoyo. So reflecting on democracy, now 3 decades strong and embodied by the generation of Tinswalo and her peers, it becomes clear that our advances in basic education form a cornerstone of this government's legacy, member from the Freedom Front, a testament of the ANC-led democratic breakthrough, not a legacy of hewers of water, of hewers of wood and drawers of water. Because as we explore the narrative of basic education in our nation, we have to acknowledge the resilience and achievements of our ANC-led government amidst various challenges. A difficult legacy, stubborn, evil, and very cruel. Over the past 30 years, government at all levels implemented policies and programs and interventions which clearly demonstrated the ruling party's unwavering commitment to expand and enhance basic education through the implementation of social justice principles, which over years yielded remarkable outcomes. And we are not that, we are pigans. The ruling party's decision to make education its apex priority does reflect government's unwavering dedication to opening the doors of learning for all as enshrined in the Freedom Charter. In the past 30 years, Chair, the ANC-led government made significant strides eradicating illiteracy. State South Africa, not me, says by 2021, the adult literacy rates of this country stood at 86.4%. And this we didn't achieve by magic. We had to open the doors of learning for all, run a literacy campaign which reached 4.1 million adults through the curricular campaign for 8 years. So it's been a long, long walk to get to where we are. So we celebrate the steady upward trend in our basic education system. The next phase, indeed, Minister Zulu, is to ramp up early childhood development progress. Focus on foundational skills of reading, writing, and counting, as well as diversifying the curriculum for skills and competencies of a changing world, and continue to ensure the reduction of failure rates, repetition rates, and dropout rates, which happen after the basic education phase. ECD is now with us, and we're going to strengthen the foundations for learning. The decision of the ruling party to shift ECD from DSD to DBE was driven by an understanding of ECD as a launching pad for a reinforced continuum of learning and development from early years to grades so that we can build solid foundations for learning. And this fact cannot be overemphasized. because it is critical for early identification of developmental delays to enable us to provide early integrated support for our children. In addition to the policies that we receive from DBE, we ran a number of studies, amongst them the ECD census, which indicated that only 34% of children between 3 and 5 years are at school. We did another study of Thrive by 5, which also confirmed that even the kids who were in CD programs were not on track in terms of their developmental studies, and ran quite a number of studies like the Public Expenditure Framework Review. We also had a review to inform us on what we need to improve for the ECD programs to improve their quality. And these studies, Chair, and different other studies inform our practical actions in our new strategy, which will be published shortly, as indicated by the President. The President himself will be the convener of the Special Interministerial Committee for ECD to ensure that all the relevant government departments come together to drive our ambitious integrated ECD program. Speaker, allow me to lift some of the critical areas in the basic education system. In the last few years, as DBE, we adopted a theme which we said a system on the rise. But given the improvement trajectory that we have observed in the past few years, then our theme is growing together, a sector in the rise. And the 2023 results give credence to this theme because we have a cohesive improvement. Not even one of our provinces performed under 75%. And more heartening and encouraging is a narrowing of the percentage gap between provinces, but also between fee-paying schools and non-fee-paying schools. Chair and honorable members, and the general public, we wish to restate the fact that the overall pass of the class of 2023 is 82.9%. Umemba nodata unlanda nababhubhileyo ubabhalisa posthumous ubabalela apha. Wonke umuntu ongabhalanga nonomntana ulapha sithetha ngabantu ababhalileyo, hayi abantu abangabhalanga. Sithi kwaba ababhalileyo 82.9% road. Kusabanye bama-TVET, abanye basibhubhele, abanye banabantwana, asithethi ngabo, sithetha ngabo. So soon be 60% yabantu ababhubhileyo nto ubabhalise posthumously. So most poignantly, Chair, we have to report the pro-poor policies of government, which are showing good fruit. The difference, as I say, of performance between fee-paying schools and no-fee-paying schools is narrowing. The no-fee schools have been consistently producing high proportion of bachelors since 2015. Yes, indeed, the President calls this the silent revolution, because yes, indeed, and that's the legacy, Mr. Freedom Front. That's the legacy. We are not talking about hewers of wood and drawers of water. This is our legacy. Finally, Chair, around the 2023 results, 441,000 social grant recipients, as Member Zulu said, Odin Zwalo and her peers, passed matric. Of these, 202,000 of them got bachelors. And from this group, about Tinzwala, we got more than 160,000 to 329 distinctions. But even more heartening is that of the young people who are castrated in correctional service, of the 137 that wrote, 90 of them got bachelors. Surely, this clearly shows the pro-poor policies and the restorative justice program of this government. Quickly, Chair, one of the remarkable progress that has been made is the introduction and implementation of the 3-stream curriculum in the past few years. This project, which is overcoming, we're running it with DHI, with Department of Higher Education and Department of Education of Employment and Labor. The project has been anchored around 3-stream curriculum model, while with milestones such as the finalization of occupational and vocational subjects, the conversion of our schools to schools of skills, but also making sure that we have pilot schools. And if I have time, President, I will release all the number of schools that we have converted to be able to be aligned to the 3-stream curriculum. We've also piloted the general education certificate. Yazi omakhulu babontinswana nomama bakhe othina bomakhulu bakaTinswana sayibhala iform 3 sayibuyisa ke le form 3 ukuthi at grade 9 we can indeed, as member not that I said, begin to direct implement the three-strand curriculum, which is engendered innovations in assessment approaches in the DBE. We have appropriate different modalities, which will ensure that our learners are guided in terms of careers, guide them into each stream that is appropriately aligned to their individual interests, aptitudes, and abilities for them to thrive. Chair, research informs us that language acquisition begins well before a child is born. And this phenomenon, which is a natural occurrence, supports the claim that language is hardwired in the human brain. Therefore, the system will leverage on this innate gift of language perception. It is essential for language acquisition after birth. We are using this understanding for the mother tongue-based bilingual education because we are convinced that the system must transform to address the underlying reasons for the underperformance of African language learners in international studies. By the end of February 2024, we will be announcing the full rollout of a mother tongue-based bilingual education in our schools. And this, Chair, will not just break the domination of learning in English and Afrikaans, but hundreds of years of exclusive advantage enjoyed by English and African learners in our schools.
Honourable Minister, your time is now expired.
I'm halfway.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you.
The next speaker is the Honourable Nyonso.
House Chairperson, Mr. President, we would rather like to see more practical responses to the challenges that poor communities are facing. Critical challenges in the economy are made more difficult by the load-shedding saga, which continues to destroy small and medium businesses who depend on the state to provide basic electricity on a sustainable basis. Health services facilities are overcrowded and in a dire state. We need urgency on health and education facilities. We need our own skills base to be on par with the rising fourth industrial revolution. We must not only be a member of the BRICS countries, we must add value to rising of the new international order wherein Global South gains traction in the world economy. The state is failing to address these conditions seriously. Basic maintenance of national and provincial roads in critical areas where entry levels could boost local development are not attended to. The loss of critical manufacturing plant in the Northwest province recently because of poor road conditions is a problem squarely in the hands of the state machinery. One of the major poultry concerns in Standerton has had to build water infrastructure to draw from the Vaal River at exorbitant costs without any contribution by the state. The jobs are at the mainstay of the local town residents threatened, not by the business competition, but by the inability of the state to do its job. These types of clear and apparent failures on the part of the government do not offer any hope and trust in the future. The empty promises and the comparison of the good story which must be told since 1994 are a waste of time. Mr. President, I have invited you to come and see roads in Tsendane, near Butterworth in Eastern Province. The disaster waiting to happen has not been addressed by your esteemed office. Uthe wawuthi indlela zase-Eastern Cape zinhle, inhliziyo yami icishe yama. Even naye uPremier wase-Eastern Cape kweza kuCendane sesukocinga indlela. You can attest to it. Singangahle kwezinye indawo kodwa thina kuCendane siyafa. The communities in these areas only understand practical solutions to the problems. Their faith in the state providing answers is growing thin and will soon evaporate. We all know that reforms from the state should be seen to be done on the ground, not what we hear stated in fairy tales. Communities complain about the rigidity of the state to make ordinary lives livable. This is a case of feet of clay in State President's office. There is apparently insufficient legislative framework to deal with mining tailings and protect communities of the poor near these mines from the apparent climate and environmental challenges. This includes the hazard posed by illegal mining by the Zamazamas. In the state of the address is not attending to these challenges, it leaves unanswered questions to the disputes over the mining dams between the communities and authorities. In the Limpopo province, for example, truck owners harassed and excluded from access to the mining dams. The PAC would like to propose a moratorium on exorbitant fees that are charged for the mining tailings. The state must work out a framework for these nearby communities through the Department of Mineral Resources to play a role in the management of the dam so that local trucks can legally participate in the removal of mining sand to use it for beneficiary projects in building construction material. The PAC is concerned with the debt ratio in the imbalances of trade relations and on international level. Borrowing on this large scale to paper over the crest is not a prudent way to go. That is mortgaging the assets of the people and making high liabilities they will struggle to turn around. We just do not hear what plans the office is making to avoid a crisis of paralysis in the state of the nation. What is clear, however, is the rise of a moral high ground taken by South Africa when the genocide in Gaza Strip in occupied Palestine was raised at the International Court of Justice. We support the stand taken. We are proud to be the best legal brains sent from our beloved motherland to save humanity from atrocities conducted by insensitive amongst us. That was indeed an amazing grace. And from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Minister in the Presidency for Electricity.
House Chair, Honourable President, Deputy President, Cabinet colleagues, members of Parliament, the media, and the people of the Republic. In the recent State of the Nation address, the President introduced us to Tintswalo. This eloquent metaphor encapsulates the lived experiences and journey of progress our nation has undertaken over the past 3 decades of democracy. As we reflect on this metaphor, we are reminded not only of the strides we have made, but also of the challenges we continue to face, particularly in the realm of energy supply. Much like Tintswalo, the path to achieving a stable and sustainable energy landscape has been fraught with obstacles, uncertainties, and temporary setbacks. And yet, with each passing day, we continue to register progress as we chart the path to energy security. Moreover, just as Tintswalo symbolizes our people's resilience and perseverance, so does it inspire our resolve to confront the complexities of the political economy of energy provision. South Africa stands at a pivotal juncture where the imperative to modernize and diversify our energy infrastructure is paramount. It is incumbent upon us to harness the potential of renewable energy sources, foster innovation, and cultivate partnerships that will ensure the reliability of our energy supply, drive inclusive growth, and further expand the reach of reliable and affordable energy. Our definition, therefore, of energy security is not only to keep the lights on, it is about empowering communities, driving progress, and ensuring a future where every individual has access to reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy sources. Through collaborative efforts and unwavering determination, we have and continue to navigate the currents of change and emerge stronger, guided by the spirit of Tintswalo towards a brighter, more sustainable future for all South Africans. House Chair, as part of our immediate relief to load shedding, last year, Units 1 and 3 of Kusile, which had been out of service since October of 2022, were successfully returned ahead of schedule. As planned, Unit 5 was synchronized to the grid in December 2023, contributing 800 megawatts. The 4 Kusile units collectively inject 3,200 megawatts of capacity into the grid. The standard offer program has been hugely successful. It has been developed and implemented whereby generators can sell energy at a standard determined rate or according to dynamic rate. As of January 2024, 720 megawatts was contracted, with 100 megawatts made available to the grid, and a further 316 megawatts have been approved for contracting. Medupi 4 will return to service this year in September, a year ahead of schedule. Unit 6 will be synchronized in late November 2024. These units will add 1,600 megawatts to the grid. In addition, Unit 2 of Kubek will return to service in September of 2024, giving us 980 megawatts following a planned outage. These interventions will collectively add 2,580 megawatts to the grid in 2024. To the end of load shedding is indeed within sight. House Chair, our demand-side interventions have similarly yielded exceptional results. South Africa's installed rooftop solar PV capacity increased from 983 megawatts in March of 2022 to 4,400 megawatts in June 2023. It is expected that private generation will continue to contribute to rooftop solar and embedded generation growing exponentially. An additional 1,500 megawatts is expected to come online incrementally in 2024. Since September 2023, planned maintenance increased sharply. This meant that whereas we could have opted for short-term gain of reducing load shedding, since then, we opted for the more enduring approach of ramping up planned maintenance. This will ensure that going into the winter of 2024, the fleet's reliability would have been significantly strengthened. This also means that heading into the winter peak demand period, we can claw back up to 2,000 megawatts by tapering planned maintenance and strengthening available capacity. From March of 2024, we will begin reducing planned maintenance from the current 6,000 megawatts to 5,000 megawatts in April 2024 and to around 3,500 megawatts in May 2024, a threshold that will be sustained during the winter demand period. House Chair, whilst the unbundling of Eskom continues, the sustainability of generation division is critical to ensuring the national utility remains the backbone of our energy supply capability and ultimately our energy security. Eskom will increasingly leverage its vast portfolio and transmission infrastructure to expand its renewable energy and battery storage system investments. Eskom will be proceeding at pace to appoint a transaction advisor team to undertake a procurement process for partners to develop both Richards Bay closed-cycle gas turbine, which is planned to yield 3,000 megawatts. House Chair, gas will increasingly feature prominently in our short to medium-term base load requirements. Eskom is working on converting Gorikwa and Ankerleg to gas from diesel on the open-cycle gas turbine technology. This initiative is anticipated to yield an additional 2,000 megawatts, which is a further 1,000 megawatts expected from the conversion to closed-cycle gas turbines. House Chair, emphasizing the pivotal role of nuclear energy in our energy mix, government will commence the procurement process of an additional 2,500 megawatts of new nuclear capacity this year on an affordable scale paced basis, as well as 1,500 megawatts of pump storage facility at Tubatse in Limpopo. As we delve deeper into the intricate web of the political economy of energy, it becomes evident that our expansion plans for generation and transmission serves as linchpins for fostering industrialization, massifying skills development, and catalyzing job creation. The interconnectedness of energy industrial complex and broader industry underscores how robust energy infrastructure is pivotal in driving economic growth and fostering industrialization. House Chair, the Ministry of Electricity will lead the process of establishing an independent transmission project office to fast-track procurement, planning, and financing for upgrading, modernization, and expanding our transmission infrastructure. Over the next 10 years, this intervention will attract up to 400 billion rands in transmission infrastructure. To this end, plans are at advanced stage with various fit-for-purpose South African Development Finance Institution to confirm the institutional locus of the ITPO. An announcement in this regard will be made in the coming weeks. As part of this work, in the short term, the focus will be implementing a set of interventions or priority corridors to strengthen transmission capacity in the Western Cape, Northern Cape, and Eastern Cape. Projects will inter alia be delivered to include 2,335 megawatts of new grid capacity, including Aries Uppington 400 kV line, Juno Gromis 400 kilovolt line, and also transformers in Nama, Kronos, and Uppington substation. Madam House Chair, I also want to confirm that we will be, in the coming days, finalizing an MOU with sister departments to ensure that we are able to industrialize, reskill, and ensure that we are able to commit up to 25,000 beneficiaries to participate in the transition into a green economy. As I conclude, I want to say to Tintswalo, as your honest uncle, Uncle Sputler, I know of your anger. I feel your pain, and I understand your cries. That load shedding is contracting and closing your capability, is narrowing your opportunities. I draw from the counsel of Oliver Tambo when he says, the future is bright, the end is glorious, it is peaceful. The intervening period is dark and bitter, but finds its glory in our acts of struggle. To you, Tintswalo, I say, the end of load shedding is indeed in sight. The future is bright. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I now call upon the Honourable De Tooy.
Agbare Voorsitter, our President's attempt to sit South Africa down for story time over the tale of a young child who has allegedly benefited from government programs while he blatantly ignores the fact that under ANC rule, we've seen increased unemployment, dependency, and poverty. The ANC creates the constant need to address social ills as they create poverty and dependence. Mr. President, governments can only provide for the poor as long as they can get tax from the taxpayers. So the only ones that needs to be thanked for this little child's performance is the taxpayers in South Africa. Die toenemende armoede en misdaad en brutale moorde van soveel Suid-Afrikaners kan als aan die regering se onvermoë en ook hulle onwilligheid en opsetlikheid toegeskryf word. Jacob Zuma was not the sole reason for state capture. You were. Your failure to act decisively made you complicit. Turning a blind eye made you an accomplice. The ANC created load shedding, not Eskom. The ANC initiated state capture, not the Guptas. You are the ones with the Cadet Deployment Committee. Geen gepoleerde woorde of skyn empatie in u toespraak sal die herstel bring wat Suid-Afrika nodig het, meneer die president. No word of encouragement from your speech can rekindle the faith that South Africa has in government. You cannot be trusted. 2024 will be yet another year we will have to face the giants in our lives. At times, we might even feel overwhelmed. Ons sal reëse soos die nasionale gesondheidswetgewing, die Bella Bill, as ook onteiening sonder vergoeding in die oë moet staar. Maar die stryd is nie te vergeefs nie. My Bybel staan daar dat vat daar 1000 aan my sy en 10,000 aan my regterhand. Sal ons nog steeds oorwin. Al stap ek deur 'n dal van doodskare wees, sal ek geen onheil vrees nie, want U is met my, U stok en U staf, die vertroos my. It's up to us to put an end to this destructive and oppressive government and rebuild South Africa. Morena wadula stulu, batu wa lapisi kwa kimaka, kakuna metsi, kakuna dijo, kakuna mosomu, Skalebala, July 2021, Honorable Ramaphosa, Gasia Fela, Utla Buna Muputsa Gagu, Hotla Sintle, remember July 2021. Al julle haatspraak kan ongelukkig die vonk in die kruitvat wees wat ons ervaar. Die moontlikheid bestaan selfs dat ons soos in Nehemia van ouds met die troffel slegs in een hand hierdie land kan herbou waar ons met die ander hand moet waak. Honorable President, your oppressive laws and legislation didn't break us as a nation. The unfair yoke we had to carry didn't discourage us, it made us stronger. Your economic restrictions forced us to be more innovative and productive. You boast about a non-racial, non-sexist society, but in the meantime, you institute more radical BEE legislation. Mr. President, the ANC tried to break our spirit. You only managed to break this country. Ons moed is nie gebreek nie. Ons is nie verpletter nie, ons het juis op ons knieë krag ontvang om teenstand te bied en te veg met trots vir ons nalatenskap vir ons kinders. 'n Toekoms met geleenthede, 'n toekoms sonder die ANC. Ek staan nie net hier as 'n politikus en 'n parlementslid nie, ek staan hier as 'n pa, as 'n broer, as 'n seun, as 'n man, as 'n stryder vir 'n beter Suid-Afrika om hier 'n bestaan te maak in Suid-Afrika, my vaderland. Ons weet waar ons krag vandaan kom. Ons weet dat ons behoud nie in 'n enkele politieke party of in 'n regering gesetel is nie, maar ons vertroue in God. Hy is die een wat heersers aanstel en verwyder. Selfs Driekus het houe gevat, maar hy het geweet om te oorwin moes ons tot die geveg toetree. En dit is wat van elke Suid-Afrikaner vandag verwag word. Wat is jou plig, jou voorreg, jou verantwoordelikheid? Suid-Afrika, staan op en gaan doen jou deel. Moenie gaan stem omdat iemand vir jou sê om dit te doen nie. Gaan stem omdat dit jou deel van die oplossing maak. Gaan stem omdat jy beheer het om oor jou eie toekoms te besluit en jou nalatenskap te vestig sonder vrees, sonder veragting, sonder diskriminasie, omdat jy hier in Suid-Afrika hoort met trots en erns en waardigheid. En die heel belangrikste, ons vertroue in God. Bou Suid-Afrika, hou goeie moed, dapper held. Ons toekoms is in ons hande. Dankie voorsitter.
Order, honourable members. Order, order. I now invite the Honourable Deputy Minister.
Honorable Chairperson of the House, His Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, the Deputy President of the Republic, Deputy President Mashatile, Honorable Members of Parliament, fellow citizens. It's wrong that the ANC campaign for end construction campaign. Some of the men still belong to the borders where they will go and fight and be eaten by the. They come here with a lot of emotions, these kufuts. Well, I take this opportunity to welcome the SONA 2024 delivered by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa. His account does not only cover the 6th-term administration, but it covers 30 years of ANC-led government in which application and the implementation of the Freedom Charter has been successfully in producing intended results, especially its Clause 1, I quote, people shall govern, and Clause 9, there shall be houses, security, and comfort. It is also influenced by the 1954 Women's Charter that articulates itself on the total emancipation of the motive forces as defined by the National Democratic Revolution. Honorable Chair, as the ruling party, we heeded the call as women and put the numerous policies and programs which were taken forward by government with respect to the socio-economic empowerment of women and girls in all their diversity. They have resulted in the improvement of women's lives and livelihoods. These policies center around addressing women's poverty, women's social protection, women's health, including sexual and reproductive health, education and advancement in skills provision, and sanitary dignity perks
for indigent girls and women. 40% public procurement to women-owned business among many. Although there are policies addressing teenage pregnancy, gender-based violence and femicide, women's burden on unpaid care and household work, among other such persisting problems. Unfortunately, these are challenges that continue to negatively impact the lives and livelihoods of women and girls, and therefore negatively impacting their socio-economic status, because they all need hands on deck and the reconstruction and development of mines. Honorable Speaker, the story of Tintwalo is the modus operandi of the ruling party, that all children born after 1994 live a decent life, have access to opportunities that their parents didn't have, and be able to create better lives for themselves and their families. Youth-focused programs in South Africa have played a significant role in fostering skills development and employment opportunities by providing education, support, vocational training, mentorship and support in career development. These initiatives have helped to bridge the gap between education and employment. Furthermore, initiatives focusing on entrepreneurship and leadership development have empowered young people to create their own opportunities and contribute to the economy. Honorable Chairs, you are aware that this government has spent more effort and resources to improve access to quality education so as to unlock the potential of young people by building their capabilities to their full potential. Uchilu Minister Motshekga up. The presidential pronouncement on the upscaling of the initiative to address youth unemployment, according to the World Economic Forum of 2021, skills development can reduce unemployment and underemployment and increase productivity as well as improve standards of living when implemented properly. In contributing to the efforts of our governments spent to improve access to quality education, our department, together with the South African National Defence Force and other departments, have reimagined the National Youth Service to be responsive to industry demand. Its approach to solving the challenge of youth unemployment is that of, I quote, all of government and all of society, close quote. To skills development for the unskilled livelihood, restoration, wealth creation, poverty, and hunger alleviation for the marginalized, to culture of science, will significantly shape how women, youth, and persons with disability think about, perceive, and solve the socio-economic challenges they encounter daily, and empowering them to create their own opportunities and contribute to the economic growth of the country and the employment initiatives. Honorable Chair, the initiatives have 6 employment streams, and that will be established, and they are as follows. 1, maritime skills and the ocean economy, engineering, construction and manufacturing for infrastructure rollout and maintenance, food agriculture value chain industry, digital ICT and 4IR industry, defense safety and security community-oriented services. Honorable Chair, with South African Sign Language becoming a 12th official language, all duty bearers, private and public, have to ensure that at all service points, including training, provide South African Sign Language physically or digitally to remove the communication and information barrier affecting persons who are deaf in particular. Chair, it is an honor that I stand before you to highlight the remarkable progress made by the 6th administration in responding to the gender-based violence and femicide. Throughout our tenure, we have prioritized accountability across all tiers of government by ensuring the implementation of National Strategic Plan on gender-based violence and femicide, and enforcing compliance with reporting. The establishment of gender-based violence and femicide response funds signifies a crucial step forward in our commitment to address this societal scourge. The private sector availing funds to implement the GBV programs. And Honorable President, I salute you because you are on the forefront of this important initiative. The National Council of Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Bill was approved by the National Assembly and sent to the NSOP in 2023. Through legislative measures, 6 critical pieces of legislation related to GBF have been signed into law, with the implementation costing well underway. Furthermore, the intersectoral shelter policy and the psychosocial support service policy serve as a cornerstone in providing holistic support to the survivors of gender-based violence and femicide. We have expanded our reach with the establishment of the additional Khuseleka one-stop centers to assist victims in rebuilding their lives. Our commitment to economic empowerment is exemplified by the launch of Wekona initiative. Honorable Chair, we launched the 3rd National Femicide Prevalence Survey in March 2022. We reaffirm our resolve to confront gender-based violence and femicide with unwavering determination. Through collaborative efforts and steadfast dedication, we will continue to work towards a society where every individual feels safe, valued, and empowered. Both government and private sector can leverage separate data to design programs and services that cater to the specific needs. Our department separated data acts as a prescription scalpel, exposing hidden inequalities and guiding targeted intervention. The State South African Inequality Trends 2020 report states that women earn an average 30% less than men in the same jobs. Our department has developed a law, the Promotion of Women's Rights Empowerment and Gender Equality draft bill, which incorporates a clause on equal pay or remuneration for equal work or substantial same work or work of equal value. This clause criminalizes discrimination on pay on the basis of gender. The approval by the National Assembly of the sign language and the presidential signing it into law will drastically improve access to justice for many persons with disability. Honorable Chair, we call for the public procurement bill to be swiftly finalized to effectively implement set-aside in South Africa, thereby fostering tangible opportunities to the advancement and inclusion of women, youth, and persons with disability. Honorable Chair, for more than 300 years, South African and black families in particular were deliberately rattled and disorganized by the white supremacy. However, through their resiliency and bravery, our people rose to the occasion by producing the likes of Mandela, Tambo, and Maxeke. As a result, post-1994, the ANC became hard at work, having the capacity to provide basic services like houses, water, and electricity, led by that resilient leadership. It was through the ANC commitment that South Africans, for the first time, their dignity was restored. We can proudly say families play a critical role in providing support to the young and
The next speaker is the Honorable Darkmore.
Honorable President, Deputy President, House Chair, members of this House and guests. Ek wil net sê dat agbare de Tooy moenie hier kom en die Bybel gebruik. Want er was mense wat die Bybel gebruik het en hulle het vir apartheid geondersteun met die Bybel in een hand. Please, don't do that again. It needs to be said that the speech delivered by our President last week places beyond doubt the fact that South Africa is a better place than it was in 1994. The work done by successive ANC governments working with our people has seen massive improvements in the quality of life of the vast majority of our people. And at the same time, our President was honest about the challenges and the problems that we face as a nation. Maar ons weet almal dat as die kar begin spoed optel, dan blaf die honde baie. Siyayazi somlomo ukuba izinja zinkonkoto imoto ehambayo. These DA speakers will not tell you, Mr. President, that in the Western Cape, less than 3% of agricultural land is owned by black South Africans, colored, African, and white. That white South Africans own 70% of urban land in the Western Cape, making up 18% of the population. That colored people, while they constitute 48% of the Western Cape's people, only own 10% of urban land. And African people, who make up 38%, they only own 3% of the land. And also, I want to especially thank the Minister of Electricity and also tell them that when you go and buy 100 Rand of electricity in Cape Town, say you live in Cape Town, you buy that electricity from Eskom, you get 42 units. But when you buy for 100 Rand from the city, the DA, you only get 22 units. Why is that? It's a nurses surcharge, and over and above the nurses surcharge, they are putting more. And now they want one of their powers to take control of energy. So sê, julle gaan dit nooit reg kry. Only 50% of Cape Town residents, Mr. President, have access to internet compared to the 77% that you mentioned nationally. Speaker, workers in our province are amongst the 6 million workers in our country who have benefited from the minimum wage. This has helped many, mainly domestic and farm workers in our province. Yet it is the DA who actively oppose the minimum wage, and I want to quote from their 2019 manifesto, page 12. It calls for allowing potential employees to opt out of the sectoral minimum wage, which would have a new minimum wage of no less than an old age pension. So the DA wants a minimum wage to be 2,000 Rand. That's what they want. Hulle wil 'n minimum loon van 2000 betaal terwyl die ANC regering gee 'n minimum loon. Don't like Palestinian people. Because a senior DA leader in the Western Cape, when one of our legislature staff members was wearing a kufia, he was intimidating her and saying, "You cannot wear that here." Ai, kuteni, vaya geza bona. Yay. Speaker, and dis hoekom die mense wat the flower sellers are saying on the streets of Cape Town, hulle gaan nooit weer vir die DA stem nie. They are voting ANC. That's why that is happening. Thousands of workers in our province are benefiting as part of 550,000 workers in South Africa who have worker ownership of companies. These gains are due to national legislation and political will. But the reality is that we have a DA government in this province which opposes each and every piece of transformative legislation. They do so to defend the privileges of those who have benefited from colonialism and apartheid. Kom ons praat die waarheid vandag. Kufuneka sithetha inyaniso eparlament namhlanje. 'n Stem vir die DA is 'n stem teen die minimum loon. A vote for the DA is a vote against employment equity, whose regulations say that regional demographics must be taken into account, which benefits Africans, coloureds, Indians, the disabled, and women. A vote for the DA is a vote against national health insurance for all. A vote for the DA is a vote against the expropriation bill, which, when it becomes law, land will be distributed to those who work it. And this will happen in terms of our constitution. The DA are panicking. Their supreme leader, Helen Zille, sy is nie gelukkig met die matriek nie. She's not happy with the matriek. She doesn't believe that the matriek can appeal to voters. Zille is eintlik kwaad vir die matriek, and now she wants Jardine. So now they're trying to come up with a bill which wants devolution of powers. They are pushing for federalism, and with their right-wing allies such as the Freedom Front, they want a separate Cape Republic. Do honourable members of this House know that John Steenhuisen, the DA's second in command,
Order, honourable members. Order. Order, honourable members. Honourable Dartmoor, well, just take a seat, please. Just take your seat. Order, honourable members. Order. Honourable members of the ANC. Order. I want to recognize the Honourable Housewhip, Honourable Gadebe. Order, honourable members. Honourable members. Honourable members, I will not be able to hear the whip of the ANC taking a point of order if you continuously interrupt him.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. One member of the DA seated there has exhibited an unparliamentary conduct by showing a middle finger to the speaker on the platform. According to our rules, it is not allowed, Chair. We cannot do such gestures in the House.
Who is the member?
Oh.
Order,
That's
honourable
Bahrain.
members.
They says Bahrain.
Order.
It's Bahrain.
Okay, calm down, honourable members, calm down. Where's the honourable Bahrain? Order, honourable members. May I ask the ANC whips to please ask your members to remain quiet so that I can deal with this matter. No amount of shouting and screaming will address the issue. So stay calm. Honourable Bahrain, did you make that gesture?
Yes, I did.
Please leave the House. Honourable Bahrain. Order, honourable members. Order, honourable members. Order, honourable members. Honourable Dagmo, you may now continue. May I also remind honourable members, all members in the House, that the joint sitting have very specific rules. And when a point of order is taken, the rules clearly indicate that the member raising the point of order must be granted a fair opportunity to raise the point of order. I do not expect screaming and shouting. You're not making the point. The member who will raise the point of order will raise the point and it will be dealt with. Please let us observe that so that we can continue with the business of the House. Honourable Dagmo.
Thank you, House Chair. It's not surprising that even though the ANC in this province is working with South African Jews for a free Palestine, the Muslim community, that honourable member who showed a gesture is one of the arch Zionists in the Western Cape, and maybe he just can't handle the fact that I'm wearing this. The provincial government is clear of wanting more powers. Our Republic's constitution does not create a federal state. It provides for a unitary state with clear powers and functions to provinces. Soze sikubuyela kwi-Bantustans apho eMzantsi Afrika. Soze nooit. We want one country. That's what we want. We want to unite South Africans, Christian, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, colored, African, white in this province. We don't want that division. This provincial government undermines our constitution, and in fact, they undermine cooperative governance. The provincial legislature has 3 legal advisors, not ANC, DA, 3 of them. They all said this powers bill of the DA is unconstitutional. It's been rejected by 80% of those attending the hearings. The DA is trying to spread a rumor that we are disrupting, wanting ovens. Maybe it's a political president to draw this House's attention to one of the powers that the province already has, which is basic education. It's impossible to be silent about the unimaginable descent of the state of education in the Western Cape to the point where the matric pass rate for 2023 was below the national average for the first time. In 2004, under the ANC government, the Western Cape pass rate for grade 12 was 14.3% above the national rate. 20 years later, the graph shows that the Western Cape pass rate is now 1.4% below the pass rate, while the rest of the country has been working hard and equitably to improve. The Western Cape is frankly letting its people down and effectively going backwards. Not only have 4 provinces now overtaken the Western Cape at the top of the log, but criminally, it sits at the bottom province in respect of the percentage of bachelor passes coming from no-fee schools. The top province in no-fee schools is in fact the province of Limpopo, and we can be proud of Limpopo because they have 85% bachelor passes coming from no-fee schools. The Western Cape, by stark contrast, is the bottom, with a mere 26% of bachelor passes coming from no-fee schools. That's almost 60% below. Now, they try and claim that they have got the top mass pass rate, but what they don't tell you, because bayaxoka DA, they ignore the fact that only 25% of the learners in this province actually do maths. The DA is crushing the hopes of our new Tinswalos, our Shamiras, our Cindy's, our Bonganis, our Jonathans. And that's why this crisis, I believe, Mr. President, and I say this with all seriousness, needs for our National Executive and the President to consider invoking Section 101 of the National Constitution, which says that when a province cannot perform its function, there needs to be an appropriate intervention. Now, the Speaker, DA, was celebrating the outcome of cadre deployment. Those celebrating this outcome are the biggest hypocrites you will ever find. In 2022, and I brought it again today, we provided evidence where the DA instructs local councils who to appoint. Honourable Schreiber, do you remember the letters of MEC Bradell telling them who to appoint on a DA letterhead? This DA deployment was actually racist because the best candidate, even the DA councils agreed, was a black person, but the DA wrote and said, you cannot appoint that person. They are the biggest hypocrites in the world. So when we discovered, we wrote and we said, give us all your cadre deployment. But they're not even cadres. The DA doesn't have cadres. Let my baantjies for boeties. A cadre is someone with the skills and the ability to drive the transformation project. And 4 years later, no information about all these DA so-called baantjies for boeties. Net soos die Broederbond gedoen het. And I want to clarify, a cadre is a capable public servant who advances the transformation project and the national democratic revolution from within the state. It's about bringing diversity. Now, I want to move towards the end to say that Comrade Minister Mantashe said that when the ANC took over, there was not a single black DG. All over the world, deployment of those who support the ruling party's policies and meet the qualification, it takes place. And we as the ANC support the resolution of our National Executive to review,
Honourable Member,
but never
your time
abandon
is expired.
cadre deployment. I thank you.
Thank you. Order, honourable members. Order. Order, honourable members. I now invite the Honourable Minister. Order, honourable members. I now invite the Honourable Minister of Coordination.
Leaders, Khoshe Premiers, my cabinet colleagues, good day to all fellow South Africans. President, just last week you addressed our nation, delivering your State of the Nation address that filled us with pride. As we gather here today, we are all reminiscent of Tinswalo. For each one of us has reaped and continue to reap the benefits of the rewards of the tireless efforts of our democratic government, especially a developmental local government. As we stand here 3 decades into our democratic journey, we reflect on the significant strides that we have made that have touched so many citizens in ensuring that they are able to live a better life for themselves, assisted by a government that cares. We do this and continue to deliver on the basic services in ensuring that we look into the subject of the evolution of the multi-party democracy, necessitating us to be agile and maintain an upward trajectory in a service delivery scorecard, including ensuring that our coalition are functional. We are aware of the strategy of the opponents, which is to consolidate the anti-transformation forces through these coalitions and the moon pacts. But just yesterday, 7 February 2024, Honorable Johnston Hazen. MoneyWeb article, City of Tshwane is sinking deeper into debt, and its debt ballooned to 1.1 billion in September last year. No, wait, that's legal. In February, now as we conclude, they are 3.9 billion. Even so, on the 30th of June, the city owed its creditors about 12.6 billion. Not a dream, a record. Google MoneyWeb, 7 February 2024. An increase compared to the balance of a year. But let me tell you the worst dysfunctionality that has ever happened in the history of municipalities in South Africa. JSE listed City of Tshwane yesterday as one of the measures that needs to be looked into, and your bonds may be suspended. Yesterday. Just yesterday, you turned back 2.6 billion of the money meant for the people of the City of Tshwane for services. That was not enough. In 2016, when the City of Tshwane under the Minister Sputla Ramokgopa, they were spending 96% of their grant. Today, you have returned 2.6 billion. In 2022, we granted you permission of 900 million of our grant money to pay ESCOM debt, which has now tripled. So the City of Tshwane, as of June, could only submit financial statement 3 months down the line after the time has been set. And as a result, all municipalities in the country have given their audit outcomes in January to their council, except the City of Tshwane. Yes, you will be quick to remind me of Ekurhuleni as if I have forgotten it, precisely because they have been granted authority to do so. And that comes just after an adverse outcome of Randall Williams, and you quickly hid him under the carpet as if South Africa doesn't know why he left. Adverse outcome for the first time in the City of Tshwane. We are still waiting for the audit outcome. But this is a history of recurrence. Where does it come from? After Randall, you gave us Stephen Mokhalab. We had a sex in the office scandal. Not even in a small building. What did you give us before that? You gave us Solim Sima. We have a report written by the Auditor General into a multi-billion Let Africa contract that you extended. Come with your moon pact, we will shoot it. It is for the first time in the history of South Africa, under the capable leadership of the DA, that we are able to have a capital of a country with the possibility of not having bonds. Congratulations, John. You have done well. You are quick to say the president and the story of Tintswalo is not feasible. You have killed Tintswalo in the City of Tshwane. Let me remind you, before 2016, what Tintswalo could do. In the city center of Tshwane, there were even doves. We have introduced, we have looked into what Stats SA and the census has given us in the city. And we are saying today we are looking into the replication of what we have been able to deal with as the lessons of what have been given throughout our systems. The lessons from our presidential imbizo has given us a total of about 60 projects, which give us a total of 60 billion for a Sandleni district municipality, 13 funded catalytic projects, and Gersibande district has given us 29.4 billion, President, 10 projects, and of which 3 of them have already been successfully completed. The institution of traditional leaders, though it is still in the process that the President will be addressing it at the end of the month. We are looking into 10 SLPs as a start,
covering as such, Bakubung, Baranteo, Royal Bafokeng, Barolong, Ratlo. We look forward to have you officially open the House, President, at the end of the month. And this will accelerate all the projects that have been listed through all the partnerships that we have to ensure that there is governance, there's water management, there's disaster mitigation, additionally, there's spending of resources. I'm joining DFFE to go to Inyang, Diokoshin Kunkuma for the people of the Western Cape who are not well taken care of even when money has been allocated. DBSA has refocused itself into ensuring that all our municipalities, starting with our capital, the city of Tshwane, needs to be repurposed. And we will look into that. Since 2018, 7 billion has been allocated to look into the issues of disaster to ensure that the permission of the 7th administration carries the journey of the Mtintwalo Fed. If you look into the DPG water scheme, which came under the capable leadership of the ANC-led government, is already in completion, and communal taps and house taps instead of communal taps have been. Extension 7 in KwaZulu-Natal, where the residents table a request for a road. That road is currently under construction and will be handed over to the communities. We have said it before. Masipala utla ubonisa spoko. Come with the pact, we come with delivery, we come with integrated planning, we service you till we get it right. As I step down, I urge all of you, those who resonate with the spirit of Tintswalo, to join me in ensuring that you go back and clean the city of Tshwane to make sure that we do not have cholera that kills people anymore. You have got 40 plus people who died because you did not service the Rooiwal. The money was allocated for Rooiwal. The money is going back to the fiscals so that more people can be able to die. The 3 next decades to come, because I say, Ningawar, Siabui. Decades will even surpass the loftiest and the biggest aspirations of what the African National Congress has for you. If you want to know who Dintswalo is, go and look for the best rapid public transport that Tshwane once had, the buses that it had, the Wi-Fi that it had, the bursaries that it had, the products that it produced for the world and for the city to ensure that you are aspiring leaders. What do we have to show today, 20 years under your rule? Zero.
Honorable Minister, your time is now expired.
Like
Thank you.
Zero.
Thank you, honorable members. Thank you. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, you may take your seats now. Please take your seats. The next speaker is the Honorable Schreiber. Order, honorable members. Honorable Dagmore, you had your opportunity. Let's listen now to the speaker. Order.
Voorsitter. Agbare voorsitter. Dis opvallend dat die president ons wêreldkampioen Driekus Du Plessis geïgnoreer het tydens sy toespraak. Meneer die president, Driekus bly 'n Suid-Afrikaner, selfs al ondersteun hy nie die korrupte ANC nie en hy verdien erkenning vir sy heldedade. Maar gelukkig gaan kiesers binnekort aan die ANC doen wat Driekus aan Sean Strickland gedoen het, want die ANC weet nie wat ons weet nie. As I listened to the ANC, I was struck by a recurring pattern. Every time they spoke about an element of the collapse of South Africa, what they euphemistically call challenges, they pretend to not know that the ANC is the root cause of all of these crises. In the ANC's world, the causes of load shedding, corruption, and state capture are as puzzling as some of the world's great mysteries, like Stonehenge or how those dollars ended up in the president's couch.
There's just one problem. In each of these cases, the DA told them so. Back when former President Mbeki was still merrily chewing his garlic and the Guptas were but a twinkle in Zuma's eye, the DA warned that we would run out of electricity. When it later emerged that the ANC planned to use load shedding as an opportunity to loot through Chancellor House, the DA warned that this corruption would lead to cost inflation and substandard work, as well as serious shortages of electricity. All of this has come to pass. And then the Honorable Lucas has the gall to stand here and say that load shedding is not the end of the world. Load shedding is the end of the world for thousands of workers who have been laid off because of it. Load shedding is the end of the world for small business owners who have lost everything. The only people for whom load shedding is not the end of the world are ANC fat cats who live in taxpayer-funded mansions with generators paid by the same people who are suffering under load shedding. But then again, we do remember how the Honorable Lucas spent over 50,000 Rand on KFC during her first 10 weeks as Northern Cape Premier. At the time, she responded by, and I quote, "How would we have eaten without taxpayer money?" I suggest the ANC should make this their slogan for the 2024 election. Clearly, for Honorable Lucas, load shedding will be the end of the world when it eventually shuts down her local source of streetwise feasts. When that happens, just remember one thing: the DA told you so. Then there's state capture. For decades, the DA warned that ANC cadre deployment would lead to an explosion in corruption and an implosion in service delivery. So the ANC should not be shocked by yesterday's Constitutional Court judgment that they must hand over their cadre deployment records to the DA dating back to January 2013 when President Ramaphosa became king of the cadres. It was good to hear the Honourable Mantashe say that the ANC will abide by the court's order. I do have some empty boxes at the back and is welcome to start dropping off some of his cadre secrets on the way out of this room and out of government. But Minister Mantashe then went on to posture that the ANC will continue with cadre deployment even after it caused state capture and collapsed service delivery. There's just one problem with that, honourable members. The DA is currently awaiting judgment in a separate court case to declare cadre deployment unconstitutional and unlawful, whether the President likes it or not. When that happens, just remember one thing: the DA told you so. Sometimes one must also observe what is not said. What stood out today like a cadre's sore thumb that got caught in a cash register is that the ANC was too afraid to let Deputy President Paul Mashatile speak. He's sitting right here, so why was he not allowed to speak today? I'll tell you why. Because the ANC is too afraid to put its corruption-accused Deputy President on this stage. Imagine, just imagine, a president that protects his deputy from corruption allegations, but is too scared to even allow him to open his mouth. The DA told you so. Now, there's one final thing that the DA warned the ANC about, but they didn't listen properly. I'm sure we've all seen the reports that Jacob Zuma's new MK party is already polling at 24% in KwaZulu-Natal and at 9% nationally. It is clear that Zuma took millions of ANC votes with him when he poached the MK logo from right under the ANC's noses. As far back as 2009, the DA warned them with our Stop Zuma election posters over 1 million times. We warned them on lampposts, on billboards, on TV and on radio, but they did not listen properly. Now those chickens that grew up at the Nkandla coop have come home to roost at Luthuli House. The biggest irony is that this is all a crisis of President Ramaphosa's own making. Instead of upholding the rule of law, the president freed over 15,000 criminals as an excuse to keep Zuma out of prison. He kept feeding the crocodile, hoping that it would eventually stop being hungry. But now, the crocodile is coming for ANC votes, and it's hungrier than ever. Mr. President, in just a few months from now, as the crocodile locks his jaws around you, I want you to keep one thing in mind. The DA told you so.
Honorable Hadebe. Honorable Khadebe, can we give him a microphone, please? Order, honorable members. Why are you rising, honorable member? I can't hear you. Can we switch on that microphone, please?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm rising on Rule 34, subsection G. That rule joint rule clearly states that we cannot bring the placards into the House. And then that's what the person who was in the podium has done that. I request to make a ruling around that. Thank you, Chair.
Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, as all of you are aware, the rules are there to protect the decorum of the House and the dignity of the debate. Now, we understand it's an election year and it's election season, but we are not here to campaign. Campaigning will take place outside of this chamber. We are here to debate. Honorable member, are you challenging me? Are you challenging me, honorable member? Read the rules. It's ensure that the business of the Houses of Parliament is conducted in an orderly manner. In fact, the rule is clear that members are prohibited from bringing placards into the chamber. Now, the Honorable Schreiber, you're not a new member of Parliament. You know the rules, but you just display a campaign poster from the podium. And you do it at the end of your speech and then just leave. I will look further into the matter, but honorable members, we must desist from this type of unacceptable behavior. The Honorable Dr. Schreiber should go and read the rules again, so that the Honorable Dr. Schreiber have a better understanding, so that I don't need to make a ruling against the Honorable Dr. Schreiber again. And that applies to all members, whether you are academic doctors like the Honorable Dr. Schreiber or not. Read to understand the rules, please. The next speaker is order. The next speaker is the Honorable Minister of International Relations and Cooperation.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. President, there's one thing I know right now. Tinswalo will vote ANC in 2024. There's another thing I know. Fatima in Eldorado Park will not. Honorable Chairperson, it is a privilege to participate in this debate on the President's address. As the President indicated in his well-balanced speech, there are many challenges and many more opportunities. In fact, Chairperson, the second term of President Ramaphosa will be a term when many of our governments and our people's ambitions and desires will come into full realization. As we anticipate such progress, Chairperson, we truly hope that there will be no pandemic to put a brake on our ambitions, no economic crisis among world powers holding trade back, and no conflict involving great powers, inflating oil prices, narrowing markets, and impacting on jobs and growth. There are many in this House, Chairperson, who are naysayers all the time. They believe the ground will open up and swallow them if they tell the truth about the challenges that confront this government and the many bold steps taken to address them. It is, of course, the task of the opposition to seek to point at failures, and we should not be surprised at that. They must point to the inadequacy of electricity and our failure to address speedily the expansion of energy access, when we should have done. But they cannot, Chairperson, they dare not recall that before the advent of freedom and democracy, national interest, and we continue to work toward contributing to the improvement of the lives of all South Africans with a view to building a better South Africa, Africa, and world. Our government has honored the undertaking we gave the South African people in 2018, that we would attract new investments into our economy. The pledges at the annual South Africa Investment Conference exceeded President Ramaphosa's target of 1.2 trillion rand in investments by 306 billion rand, overachieving the target by 26%. These investments will go a long way in stimulating economic activity and creating jobs. We've also played an active role in the development of international human rights and humanitarian law. South Africa was elected to serve on the UN Human Rights Council for a 3-year term, starting in January 23. This is our 3rd term on the HRC, having successfully served previously on the council. We've also been a driving force as a country and democratic government in the establishment of the African Union and have taken on leadership roles at various levels of the continental organization. In 2002, President Thabo Mbeki served as the inaugural chair of the African Union, and from 2012 to 2017, Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma served as the AU Commission chair. From February 2020 to 21, our president served as African Union chair, and South Africa chaired the African Union's Peace and Security Council on numerous occasions. President Ramaphosa chaired the African Union at a very difficult time as the world was combating the coronavirus. South Africa was praised by the World Health Organization for the strategies it devised to deal with the pandemic. As chair of the Union, President Ramaphosa appointed special envoys to mobilize international economic support for the continental fight against COVID and established the African Vaccine Acquisition Task Team. By August 21, the team had managed to secure 400 million vaccine doses for African countries, despite hoarding by the North. Of course, there are many on the benches in opposition who wish to pretend that there was no such thing as COVID, that it didn't affect us severely socially as well as economically. Our country played a major role in the fight to make COVID vaccines more accessible to the developing South. We couldn't get vaccines till President Ramaphosa intervened. South Africa and India argued effectively for a temporary TRIPS waiver at the World Trade Organization to enable developing countries to manufacture COVID vaccines and therapeutics. We faced huge resistance from the rich developed countries, but we won a partial temporary waiver. As a result, in 2021, the African Union heads of state established the Partnerships for Africa Vaccine Manufacturing under the Africa CDC. The Africa CDC is working with 4 other national regulatory authorities to boost capacity to manufacture 60% of vaccine needs in Africa by 2040, for the first time ever for Africa, and South Africa led the way. In June last year, the WHO made reference to how South Africa managed its response to the pandemic despite the many challenges. Dr. Ryan at the WHO said South Africa used its initial lockdown very well and put in place a 4-point plan for preparedness and response. He said the deployment of mobile laboratories across the country was a huge innovation. and the training of 30,000 community health workers to do contact tracing and testing was effective. He lauded South Africa for its swift technological response, which allowed it to develop COVID-19 testing capacity early on and assist other countries on the continent to test for cases. Of course, none of this will be mentioned by the opposition. South Africa has capitalized on its membership in important multilateral organizations such as the G20 and BRICS to advance the priorities of the African Union's Agenda 2063, our continent's development blueprint. We've played a significant role in the development of continental infrastructure, the procurement and development of vaccines, in science and innovation, and we are determined to play an even larger role in the second 10-year implementation plan of Agenda 2063. But of course, we still have a long way to go, as President said, despite major successes. Our country has been playing a role in advancing peace and security on the African continent for many years, from the 2003 Sun City Unity Talks for the Democratic Republic of Congo to 2021 signing off of the Pretoria Agreement between the federal government of Ethiopia and the TPLF. We are a country and government that is doing. We've made also a noticeable impact in our country in science and innovation on the world stage. In fact, Mr. President, I don't remember, and I was wondering, why is it when it's a young black woman referred to that the only career she might have is factory worker? I found that odd. Nonetheless, in the space of science, innovation, and intellectual development, we are very proud internationally of Dr. Chiliji Marwala, of the UN University. He was appointed in August 2023 and serves as a physicist who lost her job. I would have said transformation is happening, but a factory worker, no. The pioneering research of Professor Gauteng is paving the way for safer cancer detection and treatment without the debilitating effects of chemotherapy. Last year, Pope Francis appointed Professor Gauteng to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. And then we have Sinamile Masango, who is a nuclear physicist and an esteemed scholar who presents her work on some of the biggest science stages in the world. She mentors young girls in science through her foundation and has declared she wishes to be the first African woman to travel to space, not for the moonshot, but to shoot it down. Our country, Honorable Chairperson, has a myriad of influential, talented minds, and we are proud that they represent South Africa so well. Some of these inimitable minds comprised our world-class team of international law advocates who presented our case to the International Court of Justice last month on Israel's genocide in Gaza. I was absolutely shocked at Honorable Nodada suggesting leave the genocide and focus on your domestic issues. I find it horrifying that that is the future South African we have. People worldwide have hailed South Africa's case before the ICJ and the finding of the court that there's a plausible case of genocide. This has had reverberations worldwide. The case is particularly significant in that the ICJ is seized by such an important matter of peace and security, where it is a country of the South that is asking the world's highest court to hold a country of the North accountable for their violations of the Geneva Convention. We all know that provisional measures were set out by the court. We all know that the silence of the Democratic Alliance has been deafening. We all know that the Western Cape government on 10th March 2022, through their premier, referred to Ukraine in the following way: it cannot, we cannot, and will not remain silent in the face of a major international crisis that threatens the very foundation of our liberal international order. Premier, Western Cape, Honorable Nodada, about Ukraine. But today you say we must ignore genocide in Palestine. We are embarrassed by you.
Honorable Minister, your time has now expired. Thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, please take your seats now. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. Thank you. Please take your seats. Honorable members, order. That brings us to the end of the list of speakers for today. The debate will resume tomorrow. That concludes the business for the day, and the joint sitting is adjourned.